Good morning, trading world. It is January 19, 2022, and it's about 8:23 a.m., and this is my pre-market outlook and technical analysis for day trading the SPY. Today's outlook title is Be Patient. A bounce is building. But be patient works in more than one way, because this bounce, you want to be patient, you want to take advantage of it, but don't get sold that we're going to continue another rocket ship ride up and everything, and forget about everything that just transpired this last month or so. All right. So like I said, in the undercurrents of what's going on right now, I do sense a bounce building. However, I believe we have another cycle to the lows and maybe a little below in today's trading. So again, be patient. Don't come out today jumping on the train to the upside, because there could very well be another drop back to or to revisit the lows that we made overnight and possibly a little below. It seems as though we are about to reach one of those points where a time frame will need to take a break from running. If you've paid attention to a lot of my videos, I often give this analogy of the market as a person running. And in that analogy, we imagine the market as the person, and just like a person, you can't run forever. You have to take breaks to catch your breath. In normal market conditions, those moments where it stops to catch its breath are called consolidation. However, these are not normal market conditions. In the volatile conditions like we're in today, that catch your breath moment could come in the form of a rip your face off rally. For those of you who don't know, a rip your face off rally is a rally that began with a lot of short covering on a higher time frame and then snowballs into a rocket to the upside, fueled by both short covering and buyers' fear of missing out. These rallies are like rockets. They have a strong and fast takeoff and get you up and away fast. But once it runs out of fuel, look out below. The downside is pretty much like a rocket out of fuel, slowly losing momentum to the upside, then gradually picking up speed while plummeting back to earth. Now, let's get into the key levels of the day. Starting with resistance. Resistance, we have the jack resistance at 458 through 459 area. Queen resistance at 461 through 463 area. King resistance at 467 through 468 area. Going to the support side, we have support at 456 through 454 area. Queen support at 453 through 451 area. And king support at 449 through 445 area. Battlegrounds for today. To the low side, 454 will be the battleground to go lower. And 457 will be the battle area to go higher. Keep in mind, we have major channels below us at 453 and above us at 463. And at some point, I think we have a date with 451. Also, keep in mind that the lower edge of the expected move is around the 455 area. So I expect this level to be impactful today, which means we may revisit it more than once. Usually those levels act as a magnet. Anytime we get within range, it pulls us back into it. So be mindful of that. Now let's get into the scenarios for today. All right, and here we go. As for today's scenarios, the first and most probable scenario that we have, which has about a 52% probability of happening today, is an expansive range day type structure. And what we're going to see again on the range day type structure, comment and let me know if you would like to see, because I'm thinking about separating the day type structures into a separate video that you can kind of go back and watch, and also give you an advantage of what to do on those particular days. But back to today's scenario, this range day structure. On the range day, we look to find a boundary to the top side, which today that decision area could be the 461 through 463 area. And I have a keen look, or the 462 area is sticking out a lot to me this morning. So usually on a range day scenario, we look at creating a boundary to the higher side and to the lower side, and usually for the majority of the day we chop between those levels. But when we have these expansive range days, we push boundaries. And range days come in a lot of variations. But what sticks out to me today is us traveling towards the 462 area, but not before crossing the 458, 459 decision area. And that's what I like to call support and resistance areas, decision areas, because those are areas where you need to look at whatever it is you're following, whatever indicator you're following, whether it's a MACD, whether it's an RSI, whatever it is. This is the point where you take those into consideration and figure out whether you have convergence or divergence. And that should signify or impact your decision on taking on a position at that area. So, like I say, I see the 462 area being an impactful decision area today, and then us traveling back low, possibly to the lows of the overnight session, and maybe even a little below. So at each of these decision areas, you need to watch for reversals if we're having a range day. So that is scenario number one, and the highest probable scenario. Let me get into scenario number two. All right, and In scenario number 2, we have what I like to call a rounded reversal day, or sometimes a change day. And usually what happens on a day like this, from the open, we usually take off like a rocket. And on that takeoff, within the first couple of bars, you should notice a couple of things. You should notice volume diverging and your indicator or internals diverging. So when I say diverging, as price action moves up here, you should notice your indicator either flat to slightly down. And that will give us an idea that after the midday chop, we could possibly come back down with just as much energy as we went up with. So that's the key thing to notice. And usually on these days, it's best to take advantage of the first leg up, and these days are often hard to take advantage of, because I'm a believer in having a defined entry where you have somewhere to put your back up against as a stop. And when these days take off so fast, it usually doesn't give you an entry where you can just put your back up against a wall for a great stop. But these days are also very good for trading futures against, because you can kind of jump in on a test of a moving average on a much smaller time frame, going down to a 2-minute or 1-minute time frame. So that's our rounded reversal day. And the last scenario, which is the least likely probability, is going to be a trend up day. And give me just a moment to bring that up. All right, here we have the trend up day. Couple of key factors on the trend up day. It's quite obvious that we're going to come into the opening with or gapped up from yesterday's close. And yesterday's close of 456.49 will play a pertinent role, because this is where we usually find support if we are actually going to have a trend day up structure. We usually find support at or before the previous close, which yesterday was 456.49. So you want to look for that area to hold. If we start building and chopping sideways at this area, that is one sign that we're likely or possibly going to have a trend day up. But you have to put together the other things with it, and that's going to be the internals and your indicators, looking for that divergence here at support. And if you're seeing that divergence or volume shrinking here into support, and then a burst on the upside, it is likely we are having a trend day up, and this is where you want to take advantage. This is where you want to get in with your call debit spreads, or however you would like to take advantage of it. I don't recommend straight calls because of the volatility, but it is possible to profit with straight calls. But to me, in situations of high volatility, it is much better to use call debit spreads. Once we find support, we'll usually reverse, and this first leg is the best place to take advantage of a trend day. This is where you get long with, again, your debit spreads or calls, and take advantage all the way to pretty much the midday chop area, which usually winds up in a important decision area, which could likely be anywhere between the queen and king support, king and queen resistance areas. Usually on these days, I don't really do much after the midday chop. And again, this is the lowest likely probability of happening today. So that's it for today. As always, please know and define your risk, and profit will come. Have a great and successful trading day. Be safe.